let's talk about how filmmakers use the weather. Except not like this, because this is a pile of shit. You may not have specifically thought about that before, but I've no doubt that you're instinctively well versed in it. Rain is frequently used to symbolize sadness, thunder and lightning for some kind of fear or danger, fog for confusion, and snowfall can be both joyful or antagonistic. But what about heat? More than anything, filmmakers employ heat to symbolize some kind of tension or aggression, and there's no better example of that to be found than in Spike Lee's simmering classic, Do the Right Thing, a vibrant masterwork about race relations on the hottest day of the summer in Brooklyn that hasn't lost an ounce of its power since its original release. Plenty of filmmakers have employed heat into their films. Hitchcock used it to emphasize the claustrophobia in James Stewart's apartment in Rear Window, and Norman Jewison used it to highlight the racial tension between Virgil Tibbs and the small-town cops in In the Heat of the Night. But examples like these usually only feature heat as a kind of momentary accessory.
This is going to be the hottest day of the year.
Neither film or others like it would arguably be all that different if they were set in any other climate, or if any particular line about the hot weather were removed. Whereas Lee went a major step further with Do the Right Thing, injecting heat as a symbol for tension into the very DNA of the story itself.
When I was little, I saw this show. I don't know if it was One Step Beyond, Alfred Hitchcock, Twilight Zone. It's about the scientists that have discovered that after 95 degrees, the murder rate goes up. And you see him throughout the whole half an hour of the show, looking at a thermometer as it inches up.
More murders are committed at 92 degrees Fahrenheit than at any other temperature.
And then most of the volatile, riots and stuff like that have always happened, for the most part, in the summer.
The unrelenting heat wave felt throughout the day isn't simply window dressing, but in many ways is the core element driving the action of the film. Take it away and set the film on a cold winter's day, and it just wouldn't work. For the majority of the storyline, the two run parallel. The hotter the weather gets throughout the day, the more and more the tension between the characters escalates before coming to a violent, explosive conclusion. This is a method we've seen other filmmakers tackle. In Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, the lower the temperature drops and the worse the blizzard surrounding the Overlook Hotel gets, the more and more bizarre and violent the events inside the hotel get.
Here's Johnny!
But that idea immediately presents a difficult challenge. How do you visualize heat? Every form of weather we listed at the beginning of the video is inherently rooted in distinct visuals and/or sound. But heat doesn't work that way. You don't see it or hear it, you feel it.
Well, one of our challenges was to convey the heat. Do the Right Thing takes place on the hottest day of the summer. So we went through films, a lot of films, and talked about how using the cinematography, music, the costumes, and the production design can we convey to the audience. We wanted the people to be sweating while they watch this film.
Far simpler than the overall storyline reflecting an increasing thermometer is this. Every few minutes in the script, one of the characters will look up in the sky, squint, wipe the sweat from their forehead, and say something like,
"Now, Mookie, don't work too hard today. The man says it's gonna be hot as the devil. I don't want you falling out from the heat. You hear me, son?"
I hear you, mother, sister. I hear you.
Good.
But even more than that are the constant contextual reminders dotted throughout. The newspaper headlines in the corner store, the close-ups of people popping open cans of beer, or ice being shaved for snow cones. And then perhaps most notably, an extended montage about a third of the way through entirely consisting of shots like these, including a fire hydrant being busted open for all to dance and play around in, all while Steel Pulse's Can't Stand It plays in the background. But we can dive further than that. Lee and his production designer Wynn Thomas heavily altered the color scheme of the buildings in the real-life Brooklyn neighborhood where the crew shot the film, specifically changing them from muted to far more vibrant shades of red and orange, the effect of which you would never think about while watching, but undeniably adds a deeper layer, further selling the constant heat wave. Note the way that Lee's camera will occasionally favor compositions like these.
Cut that shit out. Call me no bum.
Or consider the way that the majority of the interior locations are lit, some with that harsh and unforgiving yellow morning light, some that particularly emphasize the shadows of a constantly running fan. And lest we forget, the longer the film runs and the more tense the various situations and relationships get,
Hey, Sal, how come we got no brothers on the wall here?
the tighter and tighter shots become.
What I tell you about that noise? What I tell you about that pitch? What the fuck are you dead?
Which, especially when shot on wide lenses like these, serve to not only highlight the sweat pouring down everyone's faces, but bring a perfectly calibrated sense of claustrophobia into the mix.
Two slices.
It's this kind of nuance in the craftsmanship of the film that's so darn brilliant, taking the thematic ideas of the screenplay and baking them into the very makeup of the film, thereby creating a genuinely tangible texture and atmosphere. All of this combined together created an experience that, as far as I'm aware, hasn't necessarily been replicated or rivaled. Even Lee's later film Summer of Sam, a theoretically similar sweltering film set during the hottest summer on record in the Bronx, didn't really go much further than just a couple of added lines here and there about the heat.
I know everybody's been complaining about the heat, and it has been terrible. The heat wave has been brutal.
That's not to suggest that Summer of Sam was a failure, but only that the combined elements that went into Do the Right Thing's production made it all the more distinct and effective. It's one of the many reasons why the film has maintained its landmark status for as long as it has. And I think it's a good lesson for aspiring filmmakers on how to really create and nurture the atmosphere that a film can provide. This is how you create an on-screen environment that's tangible and that, as Lee attempted to do, will make every audience member sweat, like few films ever do.
There's no end in sight from this heat wave, so today the cash money word is chill. That's right, CHILL.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or the other videos here at the Royal Ocean Film Society and would like to consider supporting the channel, you can head right on over to the Patreon page, where every dollar goes into making these videos as absolutely best as they can possibly be. As always, don't forget to leave this video a like or a comment, and if you haven't, please be sure to subscribe.